Hey guys, welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. Welcome to Hero Workshop. This is a brand new series on the channel that is going to go over Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition character creation. These first few episodes are going to walk you through step by step how to create a character in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and more specifically how to use this system to create really unique and memorable characters. This first episode is going to be all about races. So I'm going to be walking you through this process using the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Player's Handbook. You can also create characters using the basic rules, but the page numbers are going to be totally different, and there's going to be things in the Player's Handbook that are not available in the basic rules. So I've got my character sheet here on the screen, and I already know the character I'm going to create. This character I've talked about a few times on the channel. He's one of my favorite characters of all time, very memorable, and it's going to be Damp Foyer. And Damp Foyer is my gnomish artificer. He's a tinker. He's a magic user that has no natural magic ability. All of his spells come from technology. So obviously that isn't a class in 5th edition, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to use the existing classes, backgrounds, and stuff to create the character that you really want, even if you have some zany concept. So the first thing we're looking at right now is on page 11 of the Player's Handbook, there is a step-by-step character generation. We're going to go ahead and follow that. I have a different method of character generation that follows the steps in a different order that I tend to use, but for the sake of clarity and for the sake of you being able to have your Player's Handbook open and follow along, we're just going to use the suggested method in the Player's Handbook. So the first thing you'll see on this is choose a race. So let's talk about races. So if you flip ahead to Chapter 2 on page 17, it's going to be races. Okay? The races available in 5th edition are Dwarf, Elf, Halfling, Human. Then there are the less common ones, such as Dragonborn, Tiefling, Gnome, and half-orc and half-elf. Some of these races have sub-races within them, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. The races themselves all have different racial traits that are going to affect your ability scores. Some of them might give you some abilities, such as elves' resistance to enchantments. All of them have something to offer, even humans. I know some people think humans are really boring, but all of the races have a lot of stuff going for them that make them viable at the table. And you might be asking, what race works best with which class? There's not really a lot of that going on in 5th edition. In prior editions, specifically 3rd and 4th to a lesser extent, there was a lot of benefit to be gained from, for instance, being an elf and being a wizard. But in 5th edition, it's really sort of opened up where you can combine any race and class and make a viable character that way. So flipping through this, you're going to see several things on each character's page, or each race's page. Those things are going to be your ability score increases, a suggested age range, so when do they mature, what is an adult, what age are they when they become an adult. There's going to be suggested alignment. Obviously you don't need to stick to that, but it's just sort of a suggestion. There's going to be size, whether they're a medium creature or a small creature. There's going to be speed, which in almost all cases is going to be either 25 feet a turn or 30 feet a turn, depending on how long your legs are. There's going to be languages, what languages you speak just by virtue of being an elf, being a human, being a dwarf. There's going to be sub-races as well for some of these things. So for instance, like dwarves, you can be a hill dwarf or a mountain dwarf. Damph is a gnome, so I'm going to go ahead and flip ahead to the gnome section. But all of the characters are laid out in the same way, where you're going to be able to follow along with me even if you're not making a gnome character. So I flipped ahead to the gnome page, which is on page 35. So there's the gnome art there. And, take the time to read through these sections. Wizards of the Coast has done a great job of putting a lot of flavor text in here for the various races, and it will kind of give you an idea of the types of characters that you can be playing with these different races, where they come from, what their background is, their general demeanor and culture, and things like that. Obviously, it's not things that you have to stick to, but it gives you a good idea. Within that flavor text, you're also going to see suggested lists of names and things like that. Really helpful stuff if you're just starting out, or if you're, having a little bit of a brain fart as far as creativity goes. So after the flavor text for each race, you're going to see a section that gives you the different traits. You'll see here, it says gnome traits. So you're looking for traits in the races, whatever race you have chosen for your character, whether it be dwarf, human, gnome, whatever. You're going to want to go to the traits, and we're just going to go down the line. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is our ability score increase. Now you'll notice we haven't rolled our ability scores yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a little bit of a note on our character sheet. You can either write it off to the side or type it in this box. But we're going to type our increases in these boxes so we remember when we generate our ability scores later on down the line in this series, we're going to remember what our bonuses are going to be. So for the gnome, my intelligence goes up 2. So I'm just going to put a +2 in here just so I remember that it's going to go up by 2. And then we're looking at age. Gnomes mature around the age of 40, and they can live to be about 500 at maximum. So Danf, he's got a little bit of some years on him. So I'm going to decide that he's probably like in his 50s. I'm not going to put that on the character sheet because that'll come later. But we can choose his alignment, which is the next thing on the list. The alignment for gnomes suggests that they're most often good, which, makes sense. Danf is good. He's actually neutral good. He doesn't abide by any sort of code or edict, but he's not a chaotic person by nature. He has habits. He has sort of processes that he goes through. He's willing to help others. He will go out of his way to help others. So he's definitely more of a neutral party on the good side of things. Size, we don't have to mark that anywhere on the sheet, but just for our benefit, we know that gnomes are small. Halflings and gnomes are small. Everything else in the game is medium size. Speed, however, does affect us. As a small creature, we can move 25 feet around. Okay? Now we're going to get our racial features. These are traits that we get just by virtue of being a gnome, by being an elf, by being a dwarf. And where we're going to put those is down here in features and traits. So I'm going to go ahead and write these things out. The first thing I get as a gnome is I get dark vision. I don't have to write anything below dark vision because I know what it means. It means I can see in the dark. It's fairly self-explanatory. If I need to look it up and know that it's a vision of 60 feet, then I can, but it's pretty rare that that's going to come up. So I'm just going to write dark vision on the sheet. The next thing I get is Gnome Cunning, which Gnome Cunning means that I have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic. So I don't like to write everything out on my sheet. I don't like to have it all verbatim. It tends to muck up the sheet and make it even harder to find stuff during the game. So I'm going to abbreviate a little bit. So I'm going to put ADV advantage on, and it's it's intelligence on INT, WAS, and checks versus magic. Or saving throws. So I'm going to put ST. So that means I have advantage, and that's really easy. I can really easily look at that, and I know, okay, advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws versus magic. Anyone hits me with magic, I have advantage on that. With all of my mental skills, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Okay? Now below that, we've got languages. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in here in my other proficiencies in languages box. I can speak, read, and write Common and Gnomish. So down here I'm going to put Common and Gnomish, okay? I'm probably going to be getting some other languages later on when I pick my background, but for now, that's what I speak. Now, with certain races, you have the option of picking a sub-race. In the gnome's case, you can be a forest gnome or a rock gnome. I'm going to go ahead and pick rock gnome for Danth. He has always been a rock gnome. The features of a rock gnome play on his sort of tinker background, so that's what we're going to do. So for the rock gnome sub-race, we're going to have very similar traits to what we just got from just gnome. So we're going to get an ability score increase and a couple of other abilities. So my ability score increase, my constitution goes up by 1. Rock gnomes, they've got some dwarf blood in them, and they're a little bit hardier than forest gnomes, which are more fey-like. more akin to elves than rock gnomes are. And then I also get Artificers Lore. So I'm going to write that down here. What does that do for me? Well, whenever I make an intelligence history check related to magic items, alchemical objects, or technological devices, I can add twice my proficiency bonus. Okay, so I'm going to shorthand this, or try my best to shorthand it. So I'm going to put double prof, so I know double proficiency on history checks so regarding or related to magic items. What was the other? Magic items, alchemy, or technology. So basically anything that is, science, artifacts, magical items, wondrous objects, potions, things like that. If I'm doing a history check on that, I get double my proficiency bonus. Otherwise, normally you would only get just your proficiency bonus. And then the other thing I get, and this has got to be the coolest thing ever, is I get Tinker. So this is really cool. And there's a lot going on with Tinker. It allows me to create clockwork objects. I can create a little clockwork toy. I can create a fire starter. I can create a music box. And it requires an hour of time and about, I think it's, 10 gold pieces worth of materials. Now, instead of writing that down, because this isn't something that I'm going to be using every day, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a reference, a page reference. In this case, it's page 37. So I'm just going to put page 37. So I know if I need to look this up, it's pretty self-explanatory. I can make a little clockwork thing, 10 gold, I take an hour. But if I need to look it up, I can really easily just say, okay, page 37. And actually, if there's anything that you write down, even shorthand, that you think I might need to look this up later, it's worth it to put the page number on there. So I could put, Gnome Cunning, that's also on page 37. So I could put, page 37. Oops. Page 37. That way I know I can turn to that page if I need to look that stuff up. Because it is a lot. It is a lot to look at and remember. Okay? From there, that is all we need to do with our racial abilities, okay? So we have gone through and we've picked our race. We've chosen our alignment based on how we think the character is going to act, how they're going to respond to things, their philosophy. Alignment might not come into focus for you this early on. This is a character I've played before. I know him really well, so I know what his alignment is. It's not uncommon for you to sort of discover what your alignment is in the background process, choosing these traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, or through the course of playing this character. It's not uncommon for the character to develop their alignment in the first few sessions of playing them. And I've also taken note of my ability score increases, which I will add to the scores that I generate once we generate those ability scores. I've also taken note of all my racial traits, in this case, Dark Vision, Gnome Cunning, Artificers Lore, and Tinker. And I've also written down the languages that I speak just by virtue of my race. So this is everything that my race gives me in Dungeons & Dragons. It's really simple, just following the steps, reading through the book. There's nothing that is abstract about this that is not presented in the book. Character creation is a very simple, very like clean-cut process. The abstractness of the game comes later while you're playing. So a lot of people don't know where to start with character creation. It's only abstract once you start playing. It's pretty clear during the character creation process. So take the time to read through the book, read through the rules, read through the section of the races that you're interested, especially that flavor text. It's really going to help you in the long run. So in the next episode of Hero Workshop, we're going to be looking at classes, choosing a class for our character, and receiving those abilities that the class gives us. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of Hero Workshop. Please look forward to more. Take care, guys, and happy gaming all.